Hey there, this is Shauna Bremenkamp with SolarGrateaLife.com with newborn baby Grace. And she is 6 weeks old today. We just wanted to come on here and update you a little bit about what's been going on these last few months that I have been inactive on my blog and my channel. So as you can see, I've been quite busy. Um, Baby Grace, although she is very sweet and pretty easy baby for the most part as newborns go, um, she is still a lot of work. And so I haven't had too much time since giving birth to her to really do anything besides take care of her and scramble to keep up with the house chores. She, of course, comes first, so a lot of house chores still don't get done because she needs something. She needs me to feed her, or change her, or burp her. Sometimes she just needs me. Oftentimes, actually, she just loves to be held and cuddled, so even if she doesn't necessarily need something um, on a basic level, she just wants to cuddle. And so, of course, I have to attend to that. People tell me to savor every moment and savor the cuddle, so that is definitely what I'm doing. Anytime she wants to be held, I hold her for as long as she basically wants me to. Um, so, as you can see, a lot of house chores like laundry and putting away books that have been read during story time, um, dishes piled up over there, floors need to be swept, vacuumed, and mopped. Various things need to be reorganized and put away, and none of that has gotten done. But that's okay. That's just the season that we're in, and I'm sure that when she's bigger and a little more autonomous, I will miss these moments and these days where I don't get anything done because she just wants to be held like this and cuddled. Um, this wrap that I have, I'm not sure what the brand is called. If you're interested, let me know in the comments and I'll put a link of it in the comments and in the description box. But this has been such a lifesaver. Because of this, my husband and I can go run errands. We take her out to restaurants so that my husband and I can enjoy a dinner out. And she just stays in here. We also bring her into church in this. And she just stays in here. And unless she has a dirty diaper or she's hungry, she will just sleep here and be completely content, just like this, for hours. Um, so this has been very, very handy. Definitely one of the best purchases that we've made for baby. So this video is just going to be very casual. It's an impromptu video, as a lot of my videos have been during my pregnancy and now postpartum, because I do want to still connect with you and those of you that are interested, update you on what's been going on in my life, and still offer some encouragement, some biblical encouragement to you. But the days of sitting down and editing videos and making it very polished and concise, those days are few. Well, actually, they're not even few and far between. They're non-existent right now. Eventually, I will make more polished videos that are edited and stuff, but for now, this is what you're getting. Hair not kept, um, you know, got my mommy dress on, my nursing dress, um, no makeup, just bare bones, and impromptu video with no editing. So if you sit through this whole video, um, you are awesome. You are a saint. And even better, bonus points if you leave a comment and a like. But anyway, this video is going to be about recapping all 3 trimesters plus my delivery experience and the first few weeks of postpartum up to this day. So this will be a long video. So buckle up. Starting with my first 2 trimesters. The first trimester was definitely the hardest trimester, as far as I was just bedridden, immobile, because I was so sick with morning sickness. Really, they should call it all day sickness. But, hormones were going crazy, producing what I need to um, grow and carry this baby. And so, first trimester was really rough. The most surprising thing about the first trimester for me was um, just how severe the morning sickness had gotten. And all of the typical remedies like ginger ale and ginger drops, what do they call those? Preggy pops, and all kinds of things, just eating small meals throughout the day, stuff like that, staying hydrated. None of those typical tips and tricks did anything for me. If they did help, it was very temporary, you know, 15, 20 minutes tops, and then I would just feel so fatigued and so sick again. So first trimester was very hard because, oh, and by the way, I mentioned ginger ale as a typical remedy for morning sickness, although it didn't do anything for me to manage the morning sickness well. It did temporarily relieve some symptoms. So um, I didn't want to drink typical ginger ale because the ginger ale that you usually buy from the store is very, very high in sugar, very high in artificial everything. Just not very good for you. Not good for a growing baby in the womb. So I made my own sort of ginger ale drink. What I did was I did club soda, and it has to be club soda, not seltzer water. Or what's that other thing called? It'll come to me. But anyway, you want to definitely use club soda, not the other one. Club soda, and then you take some mashed up fresh fruit. I did mixed berries. So you puree that, put that in a tall glass of club soda, and then you put about uh, 1 to 2 teaspoons of ginger puree. You could buy those in a tube at just about any grocery store, or you can slice them up and put them in a blender, puree them yourself from scratch. I also melted about a tablespoon of raw cane sugar. You could do agave, honey, monk fruit substitute, um, just your favorite natural sort of sweetener, and put that in there, mix it up, and you have a very tasty, healthier ginger ale drink that doesn't cure morning sickness, but definitely relieves it for at least a few minutes. And during that first trimester, even a few minutes of relief was heaven. Um, anyway, so that was one of the most surprising things about the first trimester. The other surprising thing was just how quickly baby grew, um, and also everything that is entailed with doctor's visits, ultrasounds, blood tests, and all kinds of exams um, involved. I don't know if it was because I was a technically advanced maternal age, so they had to do extra tests. Um, but yeah, there was a lot of labs that had to be done in that first trimester and throughout really all of the pregnancy, but especially that first trimester. Um, I was also really surprised at how emotional I got. I knew that my hormones would go pretty crazy during pregnancy because I heard all the stories, but to actually go through the hormone change during pregnancy, it was insane how up and down the emotional roller coaster had been throughout all of my pregnancy and postpartum period. Um, but the first trimester, when it first started, um, was very shocking to me. Uh, Very much a big reality check. Like, I think, I don't think I felt pregnant though, even with the hormone changes, and clearly I felt my body changing, but because I didn't see anything changing physically yet with my own eyes, both my husband and I um, didn't really like. There were times that like both of us would forget that I was pregnant. Um, but thankfully, I live a very healthy lifestyle, so I didn't accidentally drink alcohol or anything like that. But yeah, we would both just forget that I was pregnant. And the first few weeks, up until about 10 weeks, I felt great. I didn't even feel pregnant. I felt strong. I felt, normal myself. But by 10, 11 weeks, that's when the morning sickness really hit. Um, and for me, the morning sickness was all day sickness, and it stuck around until um, a little bit into my second trimester, which makes sense to me because my mom told me when she was pregnant with me, and I'm her only child, my parents' only child. Um, when my mom was pregnant with me, she had morning sickness, all day sickness, all the way up until week 16, she told me. Um, my morning sickness didn't stop until about week 18 or so. Um, so that was not fun. Surprisingly, though, even though I would be sick a lot, I had no food aversions, thank goodness. I pretty much ate whatever whatever I wanted, um, and kept it down until first thing in the morning and late at night, or all evening. I shouldn't say late at night. All evening and first thing in the morning was when the morning sickness really got bad and I couldn't eat anything because out it would go. Um, but throughout the day, even though I wasn't feeling the morning sickness, I was so fatigued, like extremely fatigued to the point where I was bedridden and all I could do was lay on the couch and just be there. My poor husband, he picked up the slack for me with the housework and all kinds of things, and bringing me food, bringing me whatever I need. Um, so that was tough too, because he was also, he works full time. He owns a roofing company, and so um, it gets very demanding sometimes. And for him to put in a full day's work, come home, and basically take care of me, um, be my caregiver for all that first trimester, um, it was tough on both of us. Um, and because this is our first child, my first pregnancy, we didn't expect that I would be so just dependent on him. It was rough on both of us. Clearly for him, for obvious reasons, but for me too, because I wanted so much to do the usual things that I would do to take care of the house, and or back then was the apartment, and to just function, and I couldn't. I really couldn't as much as I wanted to. Um, yeah, so first trimester was really rough. Second trimester was great. Um, again, I did have morning sickness for the first couple weeks to few weeks of my second trimester, but once I got over that, that's when I really started enjoying eating again, because I didn't have to worry about, oh, there's a possibility of it coming back up. So I really I, yeah, I went to town on any kind of food that was put in front of me. I also had great energy. My mood was great. Second trimester was just fun. That's when I really got complimented on and felt that pregnancy glow. I just felt like this beautiful pregnant woman that is going through this beautiful experience. And then that's when I was really showing a lot. I was showing a little bit during the first trimester, but second trimester I was really showing more, and so it was more obvious that I was pregnant, and so I had this cute little bump, and um, you know, wore cute maternity clothes and stuff. So yeah, second trimester was great. The most surprising thing about second trimester um, was confirming that we were having a girl. So that was a fun surprise. Um, and we wanted to find out instead of waiting to be truly surprised on delivery day, because we wanted to know what to buy and how to prepare, if it was a boy or girl. And I'm glad that we did. My husband, too, he was glad that we found out um, during that 20-week ultrasound that she's she's a girl. Um, yeah, nothing too surprising about the second trimester, except maybe um, that's when the soreness, like back pain and abdominal muscle pain, really kicked in. Um, so I didn't expect to be that sore in my second trimester. Um, what was magical was feeling her little flutters for the first time. I think I felt them around 16 or 17 weeks, little flutters, and it was just so special. That's when I really felt pregnant. That's when the ultrasound made it very real for my husband and I, but for me personally, it was feeling those flutters, those first little movements in the womb that really made me feel like mommy. Um, I can't tell you how special that moment was when I first felt it. Um, and it was almost like, I don't know about you other mamas out there that have had children, um, but it was like almost this special little secret that you and your baby just you and your baby get to experience together. Um, and I almost didn't want to share her with everyone else, because I can't tell you like the wild, intimate feeling that you get of bonding with your baby, feeling those flutters and feeling those little movements and talking to your baby for the first time and, talking to the womb, singing to the womb, to baby in the womb, I should say. And knowing that she, although she can't understand you, she hears your voice and she recognizes you as mom. It's just incredible. I can't explain how that feels enough, um, how special that is. Now, third trimester was really special too, but okay, third trimester, if I could describe it in just a few words, it is as special as the second trimester, as joyful as the second trimester, but as difficult as the first trimester. Body aches, not being able to sleep because you have to switch sides and you can't get comfortable. Um, Hormones are really like raging. So the emotional roller coaster is just on at its peak, really. Um, it's hard to move, it's hard to get up from the couch. Your feet are sore, everything is just sore. Um, you know, what else? It's just, fears kick in too. Fears kick in with the delivery day approaching faster and faster. You start to get some anxiety. I know I definitely did, and I had to wrestle a lot with some fears. Um, Gosh, heartburn, really bad heartburn. I went without heartburn throughout my entire pregnancy until like the final few weeks of my third trimester, and the heartburn was so intense. That was tough. And just pregnancy is hard, man. I'll tell you. It's such a precious journey and it's such a beautiful season. But at the same time, with all the excitement and joy surrounding pregnancy, you also feel anxiety and fear and misery, just discomfort. Um, but I knew that it was all going to be worth it, and although in those moments it was really tough to go through the soreness, the aches and pains, the emotional aspect of it, um, still not being able to do as much around the house, not as bad as my first trimester. Um, but, you know, I had coming from the second trimester having all this energy and strength to do all this stuff. I was exercising um, some. My third trimester, I was right back into just being too sore, too tired to do much of anything, and because of all the extra weight I was carrying with the baby and just trying to be careful not to injure myself or baby. um I couldn't lift anything, really heavier than 10, 15 pounds. So I had to depend a lot again on my husband, and other people, friends and all that. But, it was still a really precious time. In that third trimester, at the beginning of the third trimester, we moved from our apartment to now this house that we bought. Um, you can check out one of my other videos to see a little bit of my house, but I will do a full video uh, house tour one of these days, um, when I'm able to get to a place where I can edit and polish my videos to, you know, not bore you too much with just roaming around the house, and just show you like the nicest shots of the house and talk about that. Um, so the third trimester was also, oh, backing up a little bit to the second trimester, that was when I found out that I had gestational diabetes. So that was not fun, having to poke myself 4 times a day, keep a log of everything that I eat, keep a log of my blood glucose levels, and send it off to my care team at the hospital. Um, and then watching what I eat. I've never had to watch what I eat a day in my life, and then with the gestational diabetes, I had to, um, really minimize my carbs drastically and limit myself to just, what was it, 30 grams of carbs? Yeah, 30 to 35 grams of carbs, lunch and dinner, and breakfast, I could only have 15 grams of carbs, which is ridiculous. That's like a slice of bread in the morning for breakfast with some peanut butter and even fruit has carbs, so I couldn't, it was either, I had to choose either a slice of bread with peanut butter or a handful of berries with some yogurt. Um, and yogurt has dairy has carbs in it too, apparently. So that was that was not fun, but got through it, and I knew that that it was temporary. That as soon as I gave birth, the gestational diabetes would go away. Although, um, I read somewhere that it does affect your your likelihood to get diabetes later in life if you've had gestational diabetes. So I don't know. I guess I still have to sort of watch what I eat, and not go too crazy. But for the most part, I can eat whatever I want again. Uh, Now the third trimester. Most surprising thing about the third trimester was probably probably how severe the aches and pains would be and how difficult it would be um to do anything. And I also wasn't expecting my hormones to be so raging. Like, I would just have these extreme mood swings where had, I would have a moment, whether it's deep sadness or like just full on rage and anger or whatever it is. And after that moment passes, I'm like, who was that? Um, so that was really tough on both me and my husband. Um, but we got through it. Um, so yeah, that was the third trimester. And gosh, but the third trimester was so magical too at the same time. So fun. Um, Feeling her kick. And she was a very active baby in the womb. She would it was rare for her not to move. Um, it was very rare for me not to feel her kick or roll around. And so that was really fun, feeling her and watching her just whirl around and jab my uh you know jab me in there. She kicked my ribs a lot, which that was uncomfortable, but it was still pretty funny. um she was apparently in the womb. She was, so think of this as my womb if you're looking at me straight on. Her head was down here, and then she was turned on her side, like you're laying in bed on your side, and then she was curved up like a C, so her legs were here and her little feet were here on my right side, and so when she kicked a lot of times, she would stretch out the right side of me so far out I could actually see it go, which was pretty funny actually. Um, at 37 weeks, I had an ultrasound, and oh, okay, I'm sorry, I'm too loud. Okay, I'll have to talk softer for the baby. She doesn't like loudness too much, but I don't know any babies that do. So, well, maybe I should cover her ear. Maybe she'd like that. Um, what was I saying? Oh, at 37 weeks, I had an ultrasound, and the OB told my husband and I that she was breech, and um, I had to start mentally preparing myself for a scheduled C-section. Um, and so that was pretty jolting for me because, you know, throughout my pregnancy, I had been preparing for a vaginal birth. My husband and I have been preparing for it, taking Lamaze classes and doing all the things to prepare for that, researching, watching different videos about breathing techniques and all things that are involved with a vaginal birth. And for me to hear that I would have to think about um, getting a scheduled C-section, I honestly, it turned my world upside down, but very temporarily, because I remembered that whether it's a vaginal birth or a C-section, you're still giving birth. Baby's still going to come out and it's still going to be beautiful. Your baby's still going to be beautiful. And you're still going to be mom. Having a C-section doesn't take away from that at all. Um, and really, at the end of the day, you want to do what's safest for you and baby. Um, and so that was that. But then, um, a few days after that 37-week ultrasound, I literally saw her. I watched my belly go whirr, like whirl around, and I watched her turn. At that moment, I was convinced I was watching her turn. And sure enough, um, the next week on my 38-week appointment, they did another ultrasound, and OB said she actually turned. She's what's the term? Vertex. So she's head down, and they were saying that she was saying, the OB, that Grace was actually, her head was very far down into my pelvis. So um, that was exciting. Um, because of my gestational diabetes and because of my age, the OB wanted me to be if I didn't naturally go into labor by 39 weeks, um, she wanted me induced. And so I had been doing all sorts of exercises and dancing and did all kinds of things, all the tricks in the book, um, to try and go into labor. Didn't happen. And so, right at the end of my 39th week, um, well, let me back up a little bit. So, about 4 days before my scheduled induction, um, I had a I had to go to the OB's office to um, get a blood pressure reading and a non-stress test for her. Non-stress test went great. She was doing fantastic, as she'd always been throughout my pregnancy. Um, and still is. She's still a very healthy baby. Um, but when they checked my blood pressure, it was reading really high a couple times. So they were actually telling me that um, they wanted me to be induced that night. And I panicked. And something about that just didn't feel right to me. I don't know. I mean, call it, I want to say that God had impressed on my heart to hold off. And I don't know what it was, but I really just didn't feel right about being induced that day. And so I called a couple friends from church, vented to them. They each have 5 children, so they're clearly experienced. So I panicked and I called each of them and talked about it, and they were very encouraging and even offered some practical advice and stuff. But I did end up waiting. I didn't get induced that day. I was insistent that I wanted to wait until my scheduled induction day, which um, which was the day before her due date and the final day of my 39th week of pregnancy. And the reason I wanted to wait, not just because it didn't feel right to get induced that day, um, the day the day that they urgently wanted to induce me, but because the doctor that was on call for delivery, um, she kind of she made me feel uneasy. Um, there's something about it just didn't feel right. It felt too rushed. I didn't have enough information to make an informed decision. Um, this particular OB wouldn't offer me uh, information to help me make an educated decision. She just kept pushing for this induction and almost fearmongered me about it, and I didn't like that. um, so the doctor that I had the scheduled induction with um, made me feel very seen and heard, made me feel like a very active participant in my own care, which I think that should be important for any woman, but it was very important for me. Um, and my husband kind of protested a little bit. He's like, you should really, if they want you to be induced today, you have to do what they say. They know best. They're the experts. And I'm like, no, I want to wait for Dr. G, which is um, the OB that did end up delivering Grace. I had the scheduled induction with her. So I waited. And my husband, after after she was born, my husband said, "You know what? You made all the right calls. Um, you did end up making the best decision for you and baby Grace because uh, that birthing experience, although it was traumatic because of just um, what went on with my body and the different things that ended up popping up, um, Dr. G, she was just a rock star, and her her leadership with all the different medical units, from anesthesia to the nurses to um, you know pediatrics, and the associate doctor that was with her. She just led that team so so expertly. God's hand was all over it. Um, so fast forward to induction day, they induced me, and I ended up having. I took a medication, and then after taking that medication, they put this sort of balloon tube up there and inflated my cervix so that they basically forced me to dilate, and that started the induction process. Um, so after being induced, I would say maybe an hour or two after that, all those things were done, I went into labor, and I did all the breathing techniques that I learned, and breathe through all the contractions, and I actually handled the contractions very well. Um, the breathing that I did was just deep breathing in, ooh, and I made sure that I made that ooh sound so that it sort of forced me um, to breathe from my diaphragm, like from my belly, rather than from my throat. And it really also helped me to relax. I also was very mindful of, as I was breathing out, um, I made sure to like physically wiggle my shoulders and my neck to loosen loosen everything up. Hi, baby. Oh, what's the matter? What's the matter, baby? Oh, you were uncomfortable for a second, huh? You comfortable now, though, huh? Okay. Oh, what was I saying? Let me see what she's doing. Okay, there you go. A little strawberry patch. Little strawberry patch PJs. Anyway, she's so cute. I can't stop looking at her. Um, yeah, so I was very mindful of loosening up my shoulders and neck as I was breathing out so that I could manage the pain from the contractions. And I like I said, I managed the contractions pretty well because um, I didn't end up feeling like I needed an epidural until I was about was it 7 centimeters or 8? 7 or 8 centimeters was when I was like, I need an epidural now. Um, so got an epidural, and then you know, didn't feel my contractions at all, but you know, felt I felt everything else. Like when I touched my leg, I could feel me touching my leg and stuff like that. So I was still pretty mobile, so I got into different positions and stuff when it was time to push, um, with the help of my husband and a nurse to prop me up and stuff, but I could still move. um, relatively well. But after, let's see, this was 15 hours by now. So after 15 hours of labor, um, you know, and 3 hours of plus 15 hours of labor plus 3 hours of pushing. So I was in labor for a total of 18 hours, I think. Um, so after 15 hours of labor, 3 hours of pushing, my OB checks on me and she says that, um, you know, the baby is crowning, like she could see her head right there, but the problem is when I push, I manage to push her to where she's crowning, but then this little tyke right here, she decided she wanted to try to go back in. So my daughter and I had been playing tug of war apparently, because I would push her to where she's crowning, she would go back in, so she's just rocking back and forth down there. Um, it's interesting what my OB says next because on my birth plan, I even wrote in all caps, no forceps. But my OB said, you know, we could do a C-section, or actually, we can't do a C-section to get her out. She's basically stuck, rocking back and forth. And since I had been pushing for 3 hours, if my OB let me push for any longer, that would be very dangerous for me because um, my blood pressure could drop and all kinds of complications could happen. That would pose a big danger to me and possibly baby. So I couldn't push anymore. I couldn't get a C-section either because of where she was positioned. She was so far down. I mean, she was crowning. And so, because of her position, it would have been dangerous to do a C-section for both baby and I. So the only safe option left, according to my OB, was a forceps delivery. Now, another OB had told me after she was born, after everything was said and done, and she was like congratulating, like really praising Dr. G, the OB that delivered Grace, for the work that she did in delivering Grace. And Dr. G also delivered this particular OB's babies as well. So clearly, Dr. G is just, the it girl of the OB world. And she was saying, the other OB, she was saying that forceps delivery really is an art form nowadays because nobody recommends those anymore. People just jump straight to a C-section and, take the risks and stuff. But Dr. G really wanted to make sure that baby and I were in the best possible scenario, the safest possible scenario. So forceps delivery it was. But I was panicking. I just was ugly crying because I had heard, well, first of all, I wrote in my birth plan I didn't want forceps. Absolutely did not want forceps. And so, to have that sort of turned upside down and rejected, I was like, oh no. I was so disappointed in not getting the birth that I had envisioned. And it was right, it was, the news was broken to me right there in the delivery room. It wasn't like I had time to prepare for it at all. But also I heard how painful forceps deliveries could be, and so I was scared. And, you know, by this time in the delivery room, the, you know, there was a group of people for the anesthesia team, there was a group of people for the nurses, a group of people for the NICU, just in case something happened to baby. Thankfully, we didn't need the NICU. And then the group of the pediatric team there. There were literally over a dozen people in the delivery room as I was laying there, you know, just completely exposed, ugly crying, and they're all looking at me, waiting for me to make a decision. My husband, you know, he said some encouraging words to me, and I finally said, okay, you have my permission to go ahead with this forceps delivery. So what they ended up doing was they made sure that I felt nothing because I was so scared. Dr. G assured me I would feel absolutely nothing. And so, along with the epidural I already had, um, which the medication was still going for the epidural, in addition, she also ordered me a spinal, which, oh, baby, I'm sorry. Am I being too loud? I'm sorry. Hi, baby. I'm telling your birth story. Yeah. And so, yeah, they gave me a spinal. I felt absolutely nothing. Dr. G said forceps are going in. She showed me the forceps. They were big, scary, like tong thing. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm too loud. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, baby. I'm sorry. Okay, I'll have to talk more softly. So she showed me the forceps. My eyes got this big. But she said, okay, forceps are going in. First she had my husband and the nurse hold because I literally couldn't feel anything down there. The OB had my husband and a nurse hold my legs up and pull them up. And then the anesthesiologist, he was looking at the monitor, at the contraction monitor that I was hooked up to. He's like, okay, Shauna, tell me, how you feel about this contraction. Can you, or how's this contraction for you? How's it feel? I was like, well, I don't feel anything. He's like, okay, good. You just got through a contraction with no feeling. Okay, cool. So OB says, okay, here are the forceps. Forceps are going in, and didn't feel anything. Wouldn't have known that she put anything in there. Um, and so she said, uh, on this next contraction, I want you to give me 3 really big pushes. And then on that last push, I want you to give me the biggest push ever. And I did. And with that final push, immediately after that last push, Dr. G plops baby Grace just like this on my chest. And she immediately howls. She immediately starts crying, showing off her strong lungs. And it was just the most beautiful moment I've ever experienced in my life. I mean, my wedding day came pretty close, but the birth of our baby, my husband would probably tell you the same thing. The birth of our baby was just exceptionally special. Um, just unreal how beautiful that moment was. Um, and we we both just felt so grateful to God and so in awe of him for just piecing together every experience, growing and creating and sustaining this little life, and bringing her into the world, um, and just blessing that moment so much. Um, After her birth, um, you know, because of the catheter that was put in to empty out my bladder, during being medicated for the delivery, um, to the induction balloon, to the forceps delivery, the pushing that I did, um, there was a lot of swelling. And also because um, I ended up hemorrhaging during the forceps delivery. And so I lost almost 2 liters of blood, wasn't able to replenish that plasma after we brought her home 3 days after giving birth to her. We brought her home, and I had to be rehospitalized for severe anemia and preeclampsia that had developed after giving birth. And so that was so traumatic, and made the first few weeks of my postpartum recovery extremely, extremely difficult, and I was emotionally wrecked for those first few weeks. Now, by 6 weeks, I am feeling a lot better, close to the other side of postpartum recovery. Still not 100% healed up, but much, much better, and really enjoying being a mama. Um, so there you have it. That's my pregnancy and birth experience. And I guess I'll see you in the next video. I need to get this baby into her crib.